It always starts the same way. She looks at you, not as you are, but as who she imagines you might become. A whispered promise, a shimmering ideal drawn from the hidden depths of her own being. You feel it in her eyes, don't you? That flickering hope, that spark of recognition, or is it a deep, unspoken expectation? You might truly believe you are seen, understood at your very core, yet in a profound sense you are being weighed, assessed, scanned like a pristine canvas, waiting for her to project her own masterpiece upon you. But understand this, that masterpiece is never truly you. It never was. And Edgar Cayce, the renowned sleeping prophet, he saw this profound human dilemma, not with the gentle words of a mere motivational speaker, but with the profound, piercing insight of a man who spent his life gazing into the very blueprint of the human soul, observing the echoes of countless lifetimes. Cayce's entire existence was devoted to mapping what he often called the subconscious mind, the vast, silent reservoir of human memory, belief, and karmic patterns that operates beneath your conscious awareness, shaping your reality. And in his profound readings, he unveiled a sobering, often terrifying truth about the nature of love and connection. He discovered that often, women don't simply fall in love with men, they fall in love with an idea of men, with a carefully crafted fantasy, a potent projection. And here's the most terrifying part, the spiritual pitfall you must recognize. Most of them don't even realize they're doing it. You might convince yourself she is choosing you, but what she is truly choosing is the specific version of you she has diligently constructed within her own mind. A psychological puppet, a pre-scripted character destined to play a crucial role in her own sacred inner drama. And when you inevitably stray from that script, when your authentic self dares to emerge and no longer perfectly aligns, she doesn't change the fundamental story. She simply changes the actor. Cayce called this intricate dance of unseen forces a projection of the inner masculine ideal, a profound internal blueprint of what a woman believes she needs within herself, often cast outwardly onto the men who cross her path. And when this inner ideal is unexamined, undeveloped, or left unchecked, it can become a powerful force, almost a spiritual tyranny. It transforms into the unseen current that compels women to chase potentially destructive or unavailable men, and paradoxically, to reject the grounded individuals who might offer genuine, lasting connection. It leads them to engage in arguments without reason, to seek dominance without genuine wisdom, and to impose their will without truly understanding accountability. Edgar Cayce never sugarcoated this spiritual predicament. He spoke of it almost as a form of possession, a state where the woman herself becomes utterly unaware that she is no longer acting from her own awakened consciousness, but from the powerful, often shadowy grip of an unfulfilled inner fantasy. And men, you fall for it time and again, because nobody ever truly taught you how to spot this deep spiritual deception. You mistakenly confuse being desired with being truly known. You confuse being chosen with being understood at a soul level. You readily believe her earnest words when she whispers that you are different, when in spiritual reality you are often just the latest vessel she has unconsciously cast to fulfill a role she has been rehearsing, perhaps for lifetimes. And when that carefully constructed fantasy inevitably collapses, when the subtle mask slips and the underlying truth begins to reveal itself, you are often left in a state of confusion, profound betrayal, and even deep humiliation. You find yourself wondering, what spiritual failing did I commit? But Cayce would tell you, you didn't fail. You merely ceased to be a convincing character in someone else's meticulously directed play. Edgar Cayce deeply understood that the only genuine path out of this psychological theater, this cycle of repetitive spiritual lessons, lies through what he termed integration or wholeness, the profound, lifelong process of becoming utterly complete and true within your own being. And here lies an uncomfortable yet crucial truth. Most men, sadly, never truly embark upon that transformative journey. You have been conditioned to tirelessly chase external approval, to constantly seek validation from others, and tragically, to permit women to become the sole arbiters of your intrinsic worth. As long as this remains your unconscious pattern, you are destined to repeatedly play the same exhausting role, being perpetually replaced each time the unseen audience of unfulfilled expectation grows restless. The path to self-integration, Cayce warned, is far from glamorous. It is brutally honest and demanding. It requires you to confront the parts of yourself you have buried deep within, the perceived weaknesses, the profound insecurities, the shattered pieces of your past. It relentlessly demands that you cease blaming women for not truly seeing you, and instead begin the challenging, liberating work of seeing yourself fully and completely. For here is a fundamental truth Edgar Cayce understood, a truth most men will tragically never grasp. You do not truly become a man by being chosen by another. You become a man by fearlessly choosing yourself. You do not earn your worth through her transient affection. You earn it by standing alone, fully awake, fully responsible for your own spirit, fully alive in your own skin. A man who has dared to face his own subconscious, who has brought light to his inner darkness, cannot be easily seduced by external projection. He is no longer a mere puppet in someone else's fantastical drama. He becomes, at long last, the sole author of his own vibrant reality. Cayce often observed that the greatest tragedy of modern men is not that they are sometimes rejected, but that they are far too willing to mold themselves into whatever shape they believe will be accepted, abandoning their own truth. You might call it compromise or partnership or even love, but Cayce had a different, more chilling name for it: self-betrayal. He warned that men who consciously or unconsciously ignore their own profound inner spiritual development become tragically enslaved to the feminine projection, bending themselves like soft clay into the shapes demanded by women who themselves might not even know their own true highest desires. In doing so, you cease to be true men, and you start to become mere masks, perpetually smiling, nodding, agreeing, performing, until you entirely forget who you were before you put the mask on. And women, oh, they sense this. They sense it far more profoundly than you could ever imagine. The very qualities you believe will make her love you, your unquestioning obedience, your predictable presence, your constant availability, become paradoxically the very reasons she loses all attraction. Why? Because the feminine instinct, as Cayce often revealed, isn't drawn to comfortable predictability. It is drawn to mystery, to noble risk, to the authentic man she cannot fully define or truly control. The moment you make yourself entirely known, completely accessible, without boundaries, without a strong internal backbone, you do not become more lovable. You become, tragically, invisible, easily disposable, infinitely replaceable. And yet, here's the crushing paradox that keeps most men spiritually enslaved. You fear being utterly alone far more than you fear being a fraud. You would rather lose yourself than truly lose her. You would rather inhabit a carefully constructed role than bravely face the terror of standing without applause. But Edgar Cayce taught that until a man fully embraces that solitude, until he knows himself in the deep silence, he will never truly be free. He wrote that the path of individuation is not for the faint-hearted, because it spiritually requires you to metaphorically die before you physically die, to allow the false versions of yourself to courageously burn away so that something authentically real and lasting can finally emerge. Cayce knew this profound human resistance well. He spent decades observing countless individuals who were terrified to confront their own shadow, the dark, rejected parts of their psyche they steadfastly refused to acknowledge. And women, Cayce warned, are often raised in cultures that inadvertently reward them for avoiding that direct confrontation. They are frequently told they are innately pure, perfectly emotional, naturally intuitive, and somehow already complete, just as they are. But Cayce, with his deep insight, did not subscribe to this comfortable illusion. He wrote that the greatest hidden danger to women was their unconscious animus, an internal voice that speaks with false certainty, false authority, and even false moral superiority. He warned that if a woman does not bravely face and fully integrate this powerful inner masculine force, She becomes a lifelong prisoner of it, perpetually projecting it onto every man she meets, bitterly blaming them for the very spiritual battles she adamantly refuses to fight within herself. And here you are, believing you are her savior, foolishly thinking you'll be the singular exception, that if you just love her hard enough, prove yourself loud enough, perform well enough, she will finally choose you, for you. But that's simply not how unconscious projection works. Cayce taught that projection is a thief. It ruthlessly steals reality and replaces it with compelling illusion. And until both men and women awaken from that pervasive illusion, they are tragically destined to repeat the same heartbreak over and over again, each one blaming the other, never realizing they are both passionately dancing with mere shadows. And here lies the most ironic yet painful twist of all. The woman who once saw you as her noble hero will one day see you as her bitter enemy. Not because you truly changed, but because you utterly failed to fulfill the precisely drawn fantasy she had meticulously cast upon you. And heartbreakingly, she won't even realize she's doing it. Cayce called this psychological betrayal inevitable when neither party takes fundamental responsibility for their own complex inner world. You didn't lie to her. You didn't betray her in a conscious sense. You simply profoundly disappointed the invisible, idealized character she invented in her subconscious mind. You were never truly him to begin with. And that's why she eventually resents you, not for your genuine flaws, but for failing to perfectly live up to a mythical role she never even told you you were hired to play. Edgar Cayce once profoundly remarked, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And nowhere is this more tragically true than in romantic relationships. Both men and women frequently enter them not as truly whole individuals, but as walking projections, unconsciously dragging their unlived fears, their unmet emotional needs, and their unresolved childhood wounds into the arms of another person they barely, truly understand. You call it love. Cayce called it a form of possession. And like a man truly hypnotized, you keep walking into the same painful trap, mistakenly thinking this time it will be different. But it never is. Because you have not yet asked the most terrifying question a man can ever dare to ask himself. What if I am the one truly responsible for this pattern in my life? You might desire to blame women. You might wish to call them manipulative, deceptive, or shallow. But Cayce, with his profound gaze, would look you deep in the eye and ask, "And why did you permit yourself to be chosen by that particular woman in the first place?" You see, the man who resolutely refuses to confront his own profound inner world, including his own feminine archetype within, is tragically destined to be a slave to hers. You are not a helpless victim. You are ultimately a willing volunteer. You chose to play the fool. You chose to be the actor in her private myth because bravely facing your own emptiness, your own deep lack of wholeness was, paradoxically, far more terrifying than simply playing a convenient part in someone else's grand fantasy. And here's where most of you will inevitably stop listening, because this is where the comforting illusions end and the difficult, often painful responsibility truly begins. Edgar Cayce didn't offer cheap solutions. He didn't give you 3 easy steps to alpha male greatness. He gave you the brutal, lifelong task of self-confrontation, of courageously sitting alone in the profound silence of your own mind until the comforting illusions finally begin to crack, until the insidious voice in your head that whispers, "You're nothing without her," slowly but surely begins to die. And make no mistake, that voice will fight desperately for its very existence. It will tell you that you desperately need her, that you are profoundly incomplete without her, that no man can truly live without feminine validation. But Cayce's timeless work whispers something far more dangerous, far more liberating. It whispers that the man who can courageously stand without her explicit approval, without external applause, without needing to be needed, is the man who is, at long last, truly free. Free from soul-crippling projection, free from the endless, exhausting performance, free from the tyranny of living as someone else's carefully constructed idea of a man. And when you finally reach that sacred place, you don't become cold or distant. You become paradoxically, profoundly real. You become deeply rooted, authentically grounded, fully alive and vibrant in your own skin. And that is when, by some mysterious design, women will paradoxically feel most drawn to you. Not because you desperately need them, but precisely because you profoundly don't. And you will smile then, not because you are heartless or aloof, but because you finally, truly understand. You understand that she is on her own profound journey too, that she, like you, must courageously face her own inner forces, that she must awaken from her own self-made illusions. And you cannot do that spiritual work for her. You cannot save her from herself. You can only do what Edgar Cayce steadfastly did. You can walk your own path so fearlessly, so authentically, that you become a living, breathing mirror, gently reflecting the truth back to everyone who dares to look. Most, perhaps, will turn away in discomfort, but a rare few, a truly rare few, will quietly thank you for it. And that, my friend, is the profound difference between being loved for the temporary role you play and being deeply respected for the magnificent man you have, at long last, become. And when that pivotal moment comes, when you finally realize you don't need to perform anymore, you'll start to notice something undeniably strange. You'll notice how intensely uncomfortable people become around you. They'll sense it, even if they can't consciously name it. The sheer weight of your authentic presence will unsettle them, because you no longer neatly fit into the predictable, manageable categories they use to feel safe. Cayce often warned that the truly individuated man, the man who stands whole in himself, is not always welcomed by society. He is often feared, frequently misunderstood, labeled as distant or arrogant. But the truth is far more liberating, far more threatening. You have simply become untouchable, unbuyable, unmanipulable, because you truly see through the intricate game of appearances. And here's where it becomes ironically funny. The very people who once desperately begged for your attention, your validation, your approval, will suddenly begin to deeply resent you for not needing theirs. Women, especially those still unknowingly possessed by the illusion of the perfect man, will accuse you of being emotionally unavailable. They'll claim you're too much in your head, too analytical, too distant. But what they truly mean is that they can no longer effortlessly control you. You've gracefully stepped off their stage, you've consciously stopped reading from their pre-written script, and without that script, that convenient role, they honestly don't know what to do with you, because you've ceased to be a mere character and at long last started being a profound man. Edgar Cayce once famously quipped that the gods have become diseases, implying that what ancient cultures once revered as divine possession, modern psychology now often diagnoses as neurosis. And make no mistake, men perpetually chasing external validation are among the most spiritually unwell of all. You might believe you're being wonderfully romantic when you utter phrases like, "I'd do anything for her," or "she's my entire world." But Cayce, with his wise, knowing gaze, would gently shake his head and tell you that what you call love is, in fact, a refusal to carry the weight and responsibility of your own soul. It's far easier to unconsciously project that spiritual burden onto a woman, making her the unwilling carrier of your fragile hopes, your search for meaning, your life's purpose. Because if she carries it, you, conveniently, don't have to. But here's the brutal, unavoidable twist. When she finally realizes she was never divinely designed to carry the immense weight of your soul, she will inevitably drop it. She must drop it, because no woman, no matter how deeply loving or devoted, can indefinitely hold the profound spiritual weight of a man who stubbornly refuses to hold himself. And when she drops it, you'll feel profoundly betrayed. But you shouldn't. In that precise moment, you should truly thank her. Because in that raw, exposed moment, when the comforting illusion irrevocably collapses, you finally stand face to face with the immutable truth. The profound, lifelong work of becoming a whole man was never hers to do. It was always utterly yours. And in that raw, startling moment of clarity, you will have two profound choices. You can choose to blame her. You can become bitter and resentful. You can join the angry, disillusioned chorus of men who endlessly point their fingers at women, mocking them, resenting them, swearing them off like cowards who never dared to face their own internal emptiness. Or you can choose to do what Edgar Cayce would have absolutely demanded of you. You can turn inward. You can begin the lonely, terrifying, yet utterly liberating work of individuation, of becoming utterly whole without needing someone else to complete your profound being. Because the deepest truth is this: the ideal woman you're searching for out there is, in fact, merely a profound reflection of the part of yourself you have consciously or unconsciously abandoned. Until you face and reintegrate that crucial part, every future relationship will remain a hollow performance, every connection a transactional exchange, every declared love a fundamental lie. But when you courageously do face it, when you profoundly integrate your own, often neglected, inner feminine, you truly become a man who no longer needs to chase women. You don't desperately run after them, you don't subtly manipulate them, you don't endlessly perform for them. You stand still, utterly rooted in who you profoundly are. And from that unwavering place, something miraculous happens. You no longer attract women who want a mere character. You attract women who desperately seek the truth. And you'll know it the moment it happens, because she won't demand that you perform. She won't attempt to change your core script. She won't fall in love with a comfortable fantasy of you. Instead, she will stand before you, raw and exquisitely real, not as a demanding goddess seeking worship, but as a profound human being willing to bravely walk her own path beside yours, without masks, without projections, without games. And when you meet her, the authentic her, not the elaborate fantasy, you'll see the difference instantly, acutely. She won't flood you with grand, dramatic declarations. She won't treat you like the missing, essential piece of her life's puzzle. She won't attempt to seduce you with the alluring language of completion, because she isn't looking to be completed. She isn't looking to be saved. She has already done her own profound inner work. She has met her own shadow. She has confronted her own animus. She has burned through her own deep illusions. And that's precisely why she won't need you to perform. She won't need you to carry her soul. She will simply stand there, beautifully whole in herself, looking you straight in the eye, not as a man she wishes to mold, but as a man she is at long last truly ready to meet. And in that pure, unburdened meeting, there is no desperation, there is no clinging, there is no performance, there is only truth. And that truth, Edgar Cayce taught, is the rarest and most spiritually dangerous kind of love. The kind that paradoxically demands nothing, yet profoundly offers everything. Because it is not born of desperate need, it is born of pure, exhilarating freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to courageously walk away, freedom to stand together side by side, without illusions, without masks, without debilitating fear. But let me warn you, most of you will never experience this profound, liberating connection, because most of you will tragically quit long before you ever get there. You'll settle for the comforting performance. You'll settle for the fleeting fantasy. You'll settle for the temporary thrill of being seen as someone you are profoundly not. Because truly facing who you inherently are still feels unbearably raw and vulnerable. But if you possess the courage, the brutal, gut-wrenching courage, to keep walking this lonely path, to keep standing alone, to keep relentlessly stripping away every false layer you've constructed to earn approval, you will eventually find yourself standing at the precipice of something terrifyingly, majestically beautiful. You will find yourself. And when you do, women will no longer be the primary source of your identity. They will no longer serve as the only mirror you use to confirm your sense of being a man. They will become something else entirely, something far more profound. True partners, not fleeting prizes, mirrors reflecting truth, not replacement mothers, loyal allies, not saviors for your unlived life. And you will love them profoundly, not because you desperately need them, but because you choose to, freely, from a place of unshakable strength, from a place of deep wholeness, from a place that profoundly knows, without apology, precisely who you are. Edgar Cayce didn't leave you a simple map to follow. He left you a profound warning. A warning that every man who refuses to confront himself, who neglects his own inner development, will ultimately become a willing slave to the projections of others, especially the powerful projections of women. But he also left you a profound challenge. A challenge to bravely walk the path of inner integration, to cease blaming women for the convenient roles you yourself volunteer to play, to stop frantically seeking wholeness in someone else's eyes, to stop waiting endlessly to be chosen by another. Because the man who chooses himself, fully, unapologetically, relentlessly, is the man who can no longer be controlled by fantasy. He cannot be seduced by fleeting performance. He cannot be reduced to a mere character in someone else's pre-written script. He becomes, at long last, the magnificent author of his own vibrant, authentic life. And if you've made it this far, if you felt this message hit somewhere deep inside you, please don't just scroll away. Don't let this be another piece of content you consume and then forget. Take a moment right now to honor this truth. Share it with another man who desperately needs to hear this liberating message. And if this resonated with your spirit, consider subscribing. Your support isn't just for this channel, it's for the next man who is still living in the shadow of illusion, waiting desperately to be set free. Help us spread this crucial message. Help us wake up the world, one man, one authentic soul at a time.